So, I'm going to talk about sharing. Having a t-shirt to share is not the limiting factor for most of us. If you have more than one, you only can wear one at a time. So we all have a t-shirt to share. No sacrifice even required. But you know, giving that t-shirt away doesn't bless us very much unless we actually lock eyes with the person we're giving it to. It's when we actually see and have personal contact with the person we're sharing with that we get the greatest blessing. It's harder to give things away if we have to intentionally hang out with the people who need things. It's harder to make a plan, to make 2 sandwiches and go to the park and watch for someone hungry, than it is just to eat your sandwich at home by yourself. Most of us don't carry extra t-shirts and sandwiches around, but maybe we should. Sometimes that intentionality is exactly what we need. Recognizing a need and responding generously in the moment. It takes intentionality to just say, this is what I do. This is what we do as a church. And I want to say we are so blessed to have Fran, who is about as gung-ho about intentional service as anybody I've ever met.
Amen.
And you know what? She keeps sucking the rest of us into it. And meanwhile, we all get the blessing right along with her. She's not hoarding that blessing, but she's letting us all have a piece of it. In Swim Church, we take a week every summer to give food to the kids in the low-income housing. We take sack lunches to them. I love that. It's one of my favorite weeks of the summer. Or, you know, there's just things we could do. We could go to the Roadie Festival. I understand that's coming up pretty soon. And buy some cases of water and just give water away with abandon, with maybe a little thing around it that says, Jesus said, I'm the water of life. I can meet your need. I can meet your thirst. Or maybe it's a little trickier if you have an extra bedroom. Anybody have an extra bedroom? Some of you do, some of you don't. If you have an extra bedroom, could you clean it really well and change the sheets? And then say, God, you bring me somebody that I can share that bed with. Whoa. That's a little harder. But this is not fighting poverty on a global scale. This is fighting our own personal selfishness and apathy on an individual personal scale. And it's a lot harder to do. But that's what Jesus calls us to do. And we're going to look at the passage that asks that. It's not meeting the needs of the whole world. It's just meeting the needs of the person we're looking at, that we're locking eyeballs with. So I want to challenge you to be intentional and prepare to be compassionate. I had a friend named Ed Bradley who lived in Maine. And he discovered that he could go to the Hannaford grocery store and get a gift card that would not work for cigarettes or alcohol. And so he would buy these gift cards, several of them, he usually 5 at a time, $50, and keep them in his pocket so that when he met someone that had a need, he wouldn't have to just think about it, he actually could act on it. He could have that gift card. Well, I didn't check. I should have done that. If I was a really good pastor, I would have called QFC and Safeway and figured out which of them will do this for us. Safeway does it. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. If you have an extra $25 this week, go and buy a gift card. Put it in your wallet, and then ask God to show you who needs it. Just ask him. He'll tell you who. He'll tell you where. That's my takeaway for the day. And if you do that, I'll be completely happy, and you don't have to listen to the rest of the sermon. All right, don't you wish I was done that quick? But I want to look at the scripture here. Know that these simple acts of kindness that are listed in Matthew 25:35. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. I want to ask you guys, how are we doing here? Actually, pretty good. We are doing this in this place. And you know what? That is evidence that we're walking with Jesus in our hearts. And I want our church to be known in this town as the people who do these things. And I think we're getting there. This is the first time in my whole life I know the guys on the street corners by name. And it's because we did the dental van and I did the exit interviews. And I learned their names. I wrote their names down. And now when I see them, it's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Wow. You know, not a single one of these actions listed in Matthew 25:35 takes great wealth. It just takes enough extra that you have a little bit to share. None of these actions take great organizational abilities or super intelligence. These are things that every single one of us can do if we just will. If we just will. None of these require permission from the church board. Okay? But I want to tell you, if you start serving and you need help, I think this church board will say, let's help them. Let's help them serve in whatever way God has put on their heart to do. I've been with this board now for a year, and I think if you get in over your head and you have a project that's too big for you, you just invite us and we'll, right, my friend? You just invite us and we'll all come along and be right there with you. All these actions require is that we notice people and we notice what they need and then we do something about it. That's all we have to do. You know, the context of Matthew 25 is that Jesus has been teaching about the second coming in Matthew 24. He says, oh, this is what it's going to be like when I come back to earth. And then Matthew 25 is what Jesus tells us he wants us to do while we wait. Do we believe he's coming soon? Absolutely. That's what the word Adventist means, by the way, for our guests. The word Adventist means we believe Jesus is coming back soon. But Matthew 25 is what Jesus tells us he wants us to do while we wait. And that's to serve. To notice the needs of the people around us. You know, some of us think that we're too busy working and taking care of our own families that we just don't have time for personal involvement with the poor. So we just write a check. And I have to say I'm thankful for those of you that do this. Because we have enough that we can share, which is wonderful. But it's so much safer and doesn't really call us to trust. And I think we miss part of the blessing. Our family has an automatic payment with World Vision to support one little 12-year-old girl named Goret Naminrimno, who lives in Uganda. And you know, we don't even have to write the check because World Vision applies it directly on our Visa card. And the only little hint that we've even been generous is when we read our Visa statement and there is World Vision. That's all. Which is not really a bad plan because at least that way we're consistent. And I have to say, we had another little girl that we were sponsoring, and World Vision sent us this letter and said, you'll never believe this, but we don't need your money for this child anymore. The town where she was, we helped so many people and we established ways for them to earn money and we've trained them and taught them and her town is no longer served by World Vision because we fixed it.
Amen.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And then they said, so you're no longer helping this other little girl. And she had the same birthday, exactly to the same year as my 19-year-old daughter, which is why we picked her. We thought that was really cool. But she didn't need it. So then they said, but we do have a whole bunch of other kids that still need to be sponsored. So pick one. And we did. And it's automatically deducted from our Visa card. I don't even have to choose. It just happens. I like that in a way, right? Because at least that way I'm giving, and it's really making a difference in some places in the world. Being financially generous is important. But I think what Jesus is talking about here is what happens to our heart in the personal interaction with people in need, which is so much more important than just writing the check. I think there's a special blessing if we sit down with the people and actually know them. Know their names, know their stories, know them personally. Because Jesus is right there with those people. As Mother Teresa says, in his distressing disguise. And when we come into the presence of the poor or the grieving, we come into the presence of Jesus Christ himself.
Amen.
I worked as a chaplain for 15 years. And I used to think, oh, I'm taking Jesus to these poor, sick, dying people. And after I did it for a while, I realized that every time I went to the bedside, Jesus was already there. I was being invited into his presence, not the other way around. That he was already there with those people. And I feel it's that way with the poor too. God has a preference for the poor. He has a preference for the widow. He has a preference for the orphans or the fatherless kids. And so if you want to find the presence of Jesus, just find somebody in those categories. And chances are you're coming into his presence too. All right. And this is what those of us that actually test this out find. We get blessed far, far more than we give. The blessing that comes back to us is so much more than we give away in time or money. That we're the ones that end up stronger and sweetened and our lives happier. In a 1988 study at Harvard, the students volunteered to have their cheeks swabbed to measure immunoglobulin A, which is a measure of the immune system. Then they were shown a film about Mother Teresa serving the poor, and the other half watched a how-to film about gardening. Now this is really hitting me below the belt. Because I Pinterest at least an hour every day looking at gardening stuff. You know, that is my pet sin, I have to say. I'm totally addicted to Pinterest and gardening. Okay, but those who watched Mother Teresa exercising compassion, when they swabbed their cheek an hour later, their immune systems worked better than the ones who had watched about gardening. Now, if just watching Mother Teresa do it can make your immune system better, guess what happens when you actually are doing it in real time? It brings health to your bones. Did you hear that in that call to worship passage? That what happens when we serve is our frame gets strengthened. We get stronger. We have joy, we have passion, we have purpose. It is a remarkable act of self-care to serve. Because in the end, we get blessed and we end up stronger, healthy. It's proven, scientifically proven, we're healthier and happier when we serve. So, in the study, The Health Benefits of Volunteering, a review of recent research, they found a significant connection between volunteering and good health. And we have a whole congregation full of people who volunteer doing something, right? The report showed that volunteers have greater longevity, higher functional ability, lower rates of depression, and less incidence of heart disease. If we could put this stuff in a pill, everybody would want it. And all it takes is for you to decide what God is asking you to do to make the world a better place. And do it. And do it. 2 studies found that the volunteering threshold is about 100 hours per year, or about 2 hours a week. So if your volunteering isn't at least 2 hours a week, you have some vitamins you're not eating. You have some stuff that you could be doing better, and the benefits would be better if it's about 2 hours a week. Now, some of you give a whole lot more than 2 hours a week. I mean, Fran, did you clock last week? Whoa. I mean, some of us, this is like volunteering is what our whole life is about. And I know when I finally get to retire, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. You know, I love to do what I do, and I'm going to do it till the day I die. And you probably have to come around my bed to have a small group. You know, because that's just what I love to do. Okay. Another fascinating part of the research was that volunteers who worked directly with the people who were being served experienced more benefit than those who served indirectly by sitting on boards or fundraising. And I tend to, because of my position as a pastor, end up on those stupid boards. And I think, well, I was on the homeless prevention, and I was on hunger prevention, and in the town where I was, we actually started a day site for homeless people. And I was on their startup board and the whole bit, and our own boiler room here is doing an amazing job. What we did was very much like that. Our town in Maine, where the winters were frigid cold, these people had nowhere to go after they got kicked out of the shelter at 7 o'clock in the morning. They had nowhere to go. So we provided a place, and it was really, really exciting. But sitting on the board doesn't bring the same kind of benefit as actually hanging out with the people. So that's just what this study showed. Practicing compassion is good news all the way around. It's good for us. It's good for the people we're serving. So let me just praise you again, my friends, for some pretty amazing things that this little church is doing in our community. We had all hands on deck to provide that dental care about a month ago. We did really well. We served just a week ago 21 meals at the Coast Shelter, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the whole week. And I went with Fran and Kathy to buy the groceries. It took like 3 carts at Costco to wheel those out. And where do we find the money to buy that food? It's the money that Fran has raised by selling the stuff at the thrift store. So every single thing she sells at the thrift store gets saved so that we can serve again. Amen. She's serving twice. And that's pretty cool the way that's set up. And I just have to say, I've never been in a church where somebody would drive all the way to Pennsylvania or Florida to help a single woman move. Amen. Never seen it before. You know, God says He cares about the widows and the fatherless and the single moms. And people that just don't have what it takes to be able to always make those kind of transitions themselves. And we've got Mike and Monty on the road right now doing an exceptional job of caring for somebody in a very tangible way. You know, let's say hooray, and we don't think the Holy Spirit is falling. Yeah, how could they be moved to give a week of their life away if the Holy Spirit wasn't doing that? It's like, yay, we're not just playing church. We're doing it. We're doing it. And it's just so cool. Well, and I think about Fran and those countless conversations that she has at the thrift store and all those vouchers for clothing. And it says clothing. I needed clothes and you clothed me. It's right there. Well, that's what we do. Pretty cool. I think that we in this place take this passage seriously. And I want to praise the Lord for that. You know, sometimes I have to go to churches where they really need significant fixing, and I start hammering on this stuff. You guys didn't need me to hammer on you because you were doing it already. Pretty cool. Okay, but failing to exercise compassion is also bad news all the way around. And I wouldn't be honest with this passage if I just tried to make it positive, because this is Jesus himself. And there's a point of judgment that he gives that says, if you have it within you to be able to serve someone and you just walk away, I notice it. And so the preacher in me has to come out and say, in this passage is both a carrot and a stick. I want to tell you, I think y'all deserve carrots, not sticks. But can we do more? Can we do it more consistently? Can we celebrate and hold up the poor, tired hands of the people that are taking the brunt of these ministries? Absolutely. Think of Elise, because the dental van is coming back not just one more time, but now 2 more times, because people have given us the money to do that. So cool. All right, so in verse 41, this is pretty serious business. This is Jesus himself saying, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Ouch. If you see a need and you just choose to walk away, he says, not good. Not good. And I can't water it down because Jesus himself is pretty strong. All right? So I'm just going to preach it straight. We need to just decide ahead of time that when we see need, we will respond. We'll pray about it, we'll do something, whatever it is we can do. And you have to remember that these goat people are people who think they're sheep, right? They all think they're pretty good. They might go to church and Sabbath school every week and have lots of stuff memorized. They might dress right. They might even be vegan, right? And they have all their little checklist of what they think God wants, and they're doing it. They're dogmatic about the fact that they're the chosen people. And Jesus says, now, I want you to notice how I decide who's on which side. I decide by how they treat people when they need a need. That's how I decide. The story comes to a climatic point, and the standard of judgment is set forth in unequaled clarity. God tells us what's important to him. The real judgment, according to this passage, will be based on how we respond when we come face to face with human need. And there's some Bible verses that back this up. Micah 6:8. I think this would be a great mission statement for our church. He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require? What does God want from his people? 3 things. 1, do justly. 2, love mercy. 3, walk humbly. How are we doing with those? Not too bad. Can we do better? Absolutely. Absolutely. Or how about James 1:27, where it says, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this. Okay, when the Bible itself defines the kind of religion that God wants, this is what he says he wants. To look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Now, all of us know at least one widow, right? We have a couple recent ones that are right within our own church family. And most of us know a kid or 2 that doesn't have a dad in the home, right? All right, these are people that are handpicked by God to say, these are people I want you to pay special attention to making sure their needs are met. And he's saying in their distress, because widows and single moms and kids without dads are often in distress. Look after them, this passage says. Which means take the initiative and don't wait for them to call you. You call them. Call and offer. Make that phone call to see if they have food, to see if there's oil in their tank, if they need some help with childcare so they can go to the doctor. Or maybe if they need help to do their taxes because they've never done taxes before. We could do an amazing ministry just to say we will walk beside people who are recently widowed. The old men who don't know how to cook. And the women who can't do taxes and just need someone to do it and show them and help them. And when we hear of a widow or a single mom or a child without a dad struggling, God is so clear about what he wants us to do. He said, respond with mercy and with practical acts of kindness. So, note to self, when I'm preaching to myself, whenever I preach to you, I'm preaching to myself. God really, really cares about widows and single moms and kids that don't have dads. So should I. So should I. It's important to note here, too, that this is a judgment between the sheep and the goats, not the sheep and the wolves. Right? So these are all good people. Even the ones that he's saying you're not going to make the cut are people that are good people. They're not obviously bad people. The strange thing is they don't have a chance to say a word. He doesn't interrogate them to say, now how have you done? Who did you help? Let's see, which side do you go on? He knows. He knows before that judgment ever happens who's on his side and who's not, right? He knows it already. So he simply extends the one group the invitation, come, O blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom. And in both cases, both the sheep and the goats say, when? When did I do this for you, Jesus? And the sheep are completely taken back by what he says because they didn't realize that they were living their life so well. They would feel overwhelmed with gratitude that he noticed when they were just going about their daily life in a kind way. They were being welcomed because of his grace, of what he had done for them and then in them and through them. Jesus is also commending what they did in response to that grace. They didn't just receive grace, take grace, they lived grace. And this is what I want this church to be, is a place where we receive the grace of God and then we live the grace of God. That there's not a disconnect between those two. And then verses 37 through 39, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick and in prison and visit you? And of course, the real issue is one of faith. The sheep are asked to take their place on the right hand of the throne of God because they have been living with Jesus in their heart. They have been living, doing the things that Jesus would do if he were walking around on earth. Caring for the people that he would care about. And producing that inevitable fruit of good works. And I would say that this particular passage would indicate that good works matter. Wouldn't you?
Amen.
They matter. But we're saved not by works, but by faith. But our faith changes the way we live and changes the way we respond to need. Unthinkingly, unconsciously, born of a love for Jesus Christ, these sheep people have been responding to every need that they saw, doing what they can do to make the world a better place. They kept no records. They expected no praise. They were just happy to do it. And you know, I keep a list of gifts and good things God does in my life. And I am always amazed at how when I get to help someone, I write it down as a gift to me. It's a privilege. It's a privilege that we get to be the hands of God, that we get to do what He would do. And these sheep people didn't even see that there was any hardship involved. They felt it was a joy to minister in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So not one deed performed ever didn't get noticed in the eyes of God. There's no need for Him to examine them because He's been there. He's been in their heart as they were doing it. Their hands had become His hands, living out the love for mankind. And then He explains the basis of His choice. He said, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did for me." And they're saying, whoa, maybe that was Jesus. Maybe who I just helped was Jesus. But the goats are equally surprised, and they too are caught off guard by His basis of judgment, because they say, "But Jesus, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and not come through for you?" And He says, "Whenever you didn't serve." You know, and these are good people. These are probably the people on the boards, right? They're saying, "I'm giving my life to make the world a better place." They maybe kept very careful receipts of all the money given, complete with tax receipts. They put in long hours for charity. They fight for racial equality. They protest substandard housing. And to these people, so busy being good and doing good things that they don't have time to simply love someone else, He says, when you did not do it to the least of these, you didn't do it for me. And these goats probably wanted to protest. But God says, "I see what you do. I see how you live your lives. I want you to have me in your heart and do what I would do. Just do what I would do." In fact, maybe these goat people, everything that they were doing was just a form of disguised selfishness. What they could do to look important and to connect with other people in town. And they've been wearing a distressing disguise, a mask. And that's what the word hypocrite means, is someone who pretends to be something they're not. God knows. And that would put us on our knees where you say, "I'm going to live like you would live, Jesus. Come and help me." Nothing reveals more sharply the radical difference between God's judging and man's judging than this story. Even our good deeds are filthy rags. Everything we try to do good doesn't even count if Jesus isn't in it, if our hearts are not right with Him. And if you do something so others will notice and they will be impressed, Jesus said that's all the reward you get. If you're doing it so they'll pay attention and think you're a good person, you've got your reward. You don't get one in heaven. People notice. That's a reward. But God's judgments take note of just who we are when nobody's watching. God's judgment looks at the heart and says, "Do you love like I do? Do you live like I do?" You know, in Romans 3, verse 10, it tells us that there is none righteous, no, not one. So even though we're doing pretty good here as a congregation, are we righteous?
No.
We're trying. But we still have to have grace, like hugely. Because what God needs is 100% of the time. In every single case, and we're still not there. There's only one life that's sufficient for being that unselfish and that kind 100% of the time. And who is that? It's Jesus Himself. And we're supposed to reflect him, and we're trying the best we can to reflect him. But I'm so thankful that sometimes we're the ones that need help. And he's just as gracious to us as he is to the people that we've just failed and the people we're trying to help. If we have received Jesus into our heart and walk with him living there, we will be consistently kind. And to the degree that we're not consistently kind, then we know we have some growing to do. But meanwhile, he's consistently kind to us, and his covenant to us is faithful while we grow up to be like him. I'm so glad. You know, it says in the book of Galatians, I am crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me.
Amen.
The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me.
Amen.
So whenever we're doing anything good, it's not really us even doing it. It's Jesus who lives in our hearts, and we just become his hands and feet, his eyes and ears. And if we're trying to do it on our own, he said, without me you can do nothing that really matters. And what part of nothing do we not understand? Only as he lives in our heart can our good stuff even make a difference.
Amen.
So the first job of every day is to put Jesus in your heart.
Amen.
To invite him again to live there and live in you and through you. And then be willing, as you go through your day, to realize he's right there. He is right there, and he will coach us on how to do this. He will tell us how to be kind like he is. Nobody can love perfectly but Jesus. But if Jesus is living in your heart, he's going to help you to love a whole lot better. Right? You know, Mother Teresa taught this with a 5-finger prayer. And if I had a glove, I would kind of pull my glove out and say, the glove, without a hand in it, can do nothing. Right? So we're the glove, and Jesus is the hand that comes and fills the glove to do the work that needs to be done. But this is what Mother Teresa taught the missionaries of charity, 5 fingers. You did this for me. You did this for me. All right? And I would like to propose, I'm not quite as profound as Mother Teresa, I try, but I'm really not, that God gave us 2 hands. And it's not just you did this for me, but you did this through me. Need both hands to really do a job well. That when we serve, we do it for Jesus. And when we serve, we do it through Jesus.
Amen.
You know, God asks us to do no more than he's already done for us. I had a couple weeks in the last month or 2 that I had Alicia at my house. Okay, so just the way the events happened, I knew without a doubt that God was asking me to do that. And the text in the book of James, it says, you can't just say, be well and stay warm. If someone's sick and they don't have a home, you bring them to where they can have good food and a warm house. So I did that. And that first week was pretty rough on me because she didn't have a car. And my dear husband, who needs to protect his reputation as a pastor, said, you're not ever going to leave her home. She goes with you. Okay, so she's home when you're home, but she's not home when you're not. So I'm running her all over town. I don't mind sharing my food. I don't mind sharing my shower. I don't mind sharing my bed. But I really resented the time that it took to run her all over town. Well, one day, she was in AT&T trying to activate a new phone line. And I went to Costco and did my grocery shopping. And then I said, it always takes so long in there. I'll go fill my car up with gas. And then I sat in the AT&T parking lot and I Pinterested for 45 minutes. And she still hadn't emerged. And I had somewhere I needed to go. And I was starting to get ticked. All right? I'm human. I mean, I don't mind sharing my shower and my bed, but I really resent having to share my time. All right? So I am talking to the Lord about this. And I said, Lord, I'm having to give her my whole week. And he answered me gently but firmly, Collette, my child, I gave you 33 years. If it takes all week, be kind about it. Who gave you this week? I did. Live for me.
Amen.
You can give her a week, he said. You can do that. Well, so he's not asking us to do anything for anyone else that he hasn't already done for us. And I believe that. He is so good. He is so generous. He is so kind. He is so relationally engaging. And he loves every single one of us. Here is the absolute truth. The same way that he loves you, he loves every other human on this earth. Even the guys that are on the street corners that I now know their names. Everybody. But he's the God who lives in our hearts and can live in us and love through us. And he says, you're the glove. Let me put my hands in yours and then serve. You did this for me. You did this through me. You know what? If we get this down, if we decide that this is what we're about, we're in for a ride. And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be awesome. And again, I'm preaching to the choir because I think you're already better at this than I am. All right, let's
Heavenly
sing.
Father, this is our prayer, that you would just fill us with your love so there'd be enough of that love to share. When you ask us to do something for you, just a simple act of kindness, may our answer always be yes. Come, Lord Jesus, take over our lives and use us, every single one of us, for your glory. And may this church be a place where we encourage each other in these things, and that we urge each other on to love and to good deeds. Thank you that you love us even when we fail. Thank you for the grace of Jesus over all those times that, like T-shirt Toby, we just said, I don't have anything to share. But come and may we do better by your grace and have the joy of knowing you are using us. I ask these things in the name